So now they're trying something lower key. This weekend, Navalny's supporters stood in their front yards and courtyards and turned on their flashlights as a sign of civil disobedience. Reporter Charles Maines is on the line from Moscow. Hey, Charles.
Hey there, good to be with you.
Tell me about these protests.
Well, this was a Valentine's Day act that Navalny's team dubbed Love is Stronger Than Fear. They asked people to head out onto their courtyards at 8 p.m. and turned on their cell phone flashlights. So I headed out in my neighborhood. This is in Moscow, in central Moscow, where I came across several people huddling in their parkos with cell phones turned on, cell phone lights turned on. Even a 25-year-old IT worker named Boyle Heights, I asked what he thought this actually accomplished.
Эта акция нужна в первую очередь для того, чтобы люди друг друга видели.
And he says this so people can see one another and understand they're not alone in their support for Navalny. He said he'd already seen several people here with flashlights out that night, and there was a feeling of solidarity with them. But, as you noted, this was a pretty low-key affair. This is more symbolic than anything else. Tens of thousands took part in this action across the country. It was trending on Twitter last night, but, of course, few real crowds.
Do Russian authorities care enough to respond to something that is largely symbolic?
Well, even before this happened, authorities were warning that participants could face real jail time for participating. The foreign ministry spokeswoman said this was a plan orchestrated by the West to undermine Russia. We had some universities even banning students from going out last night. And this does tell you something about the Kremlin system of so-called managed democracy, which has this kind of allergy to uncertainty, even in impromptu flashlight vigil. And in the end, Sunday was pretty quiet, just a few arrests, but some people noted, in fact, their flashlights went out, not because of anything Vladimir Putin did, but because their iPhone batteries couldn't handle the cold.
Bless Russia. Let me ask you about larger context. So a few weeks ago, you had these mass demonstrations. They got a ton of attention. Is the opposition backing down to something that will get fewer people in trouble, but will ultimately be less effective?
Well, that's in a sense what the idea was here. They certainly understood that holding a flashlight in the middle of the night is not going to shift the politics of Russia. It's not going to end up with Alexei Navalny released from prison. And there certainly were those who thought among the opposition that this was a pointless act last night. But in a sense, it was an attempt by Navalny's team to appeal to Russians who are unhappy with the Kremlin, but aren't willing to risk confronting the police and going to jail, as we've seen happen to over 10,000 people over these past few weeks.
Our correspondent Lucian Kim has described Navalny as like a mythic figure, a kind of superhero figure. Do people tell you that they can remain motivated if Navalny is still in jail for years, 2.5 years?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, some people refer to him as Batman. And there's a question on everyone's minds here. Can they function without the opposition leader? He's the only one trying to challenge Putin directly for power. But strangely enough, in conversations I have with people, I hear again and again that they're not so much devoted to Navalny as much as they say that his case, his imprisonment, has become the latest example of injustice and why they're angry with the government.
And very quickly, how much of a threat then really is this to Vladimir Putin?
Well, not so much. He's had threats before. He's been in power for 20 years. And without question, fear is the government's primary tactic to keep people off the streets. The message seems to be that if you want to join the protests, you'll pay a price.
Reporter Charles Maines in Moscow. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
This is a holiday weekend because it's President's Day. For many people, it was also a weekend of celebration because the Year of the Ox began on the Chinese calendar. In New York City, the Lunar New Year usually brings visitors and revenue to Chinatown. But this year, the pandemic is making the 15-day festival that began last Friday a little less celebratory. Camille Peterson reports.
As the festivities are about to begin, there is a lot of anticipation on Mott Street in Chinatown. Kids throw firecrackers. Business owners and a thin crowd wait for a lion dancing troupe to emerge. 2 lion costumes come out of a small doorway, each guided by 2 people. One holds the lion's head and the other holds the sparkling body and tail. The lions are thought to bring good luck for the new year. They strut and dance down Mott Street, blessing businesses along the way. Yin Kong follows the lions as they swerve through Chinatown. Kong is the director of a local nonprofit called Think Chinatown. She says this is a much quieter Lunar New Year than normal.
You can gauge how busy it is here in Chinatown for the New Year by how far the confetti comes up. And so you can barely see barely a drizzle right now.
Businesses in Chinatown are noticing smaller confetti-making crowds too. generation of Ling On-Lo, porcelain shop. She's used to running parade and packed streets.
Folks just pouring in, coming around and walking around the neighborhood after a parade, or just, sauntering in and stumbling upon us.
Plum says for many of Chinatown's businesses, Lunar New Year marks 1 year since they started feeling the effects of the pandemic, a month earlier than the rest of the city. Plum says that's because of anti-Asian sentiment.
Creating this narrative that you come to Chinatown, you get the virus, you eat here, you do anything here, and there's a direct correlation between contracting the virus and being in this neighborhood. But this one actually is a little bit more like black tea.
Tells Lou and her family own Grand Tea and Imports. Lou expects this will be the second Lunar New Year with less revenue. And her business faces other challenges. For example, the requirements for pandemic aid programs aren't tailored to the type of businesses that operate in Chinatown, which are primarily small and family-owned. Lou also worries about the rising rents and wealthier neighborhoods like Soho and Tribeca encroaching on Chinatown.
We're in a very prime piece of land, and we're the only ones left that aren't super developed.
Chinatown actually shares a zip code with those wealthier neighborhoods, and that excluded parts of it from a city loan program for low and middle income neighborhoods. But local community organizations have managed to get the city to talk to them about changes to the program.
If it wasn't for a group of advocates who made noise about it, then nothing would have happened.
Joanne Kwong is the president of Pearl River Mart, a retailer in Chinatown and Chelsea. She says there is a bright side to Chinatown's economic challenges. They've gotten the younger generation more invested in advocating for the neighborhood.
It doesn't feel pessimistic. It feels like there's hope.
Plus, she says the return of indoor dining in New York City as of just last Friday will give Chinatown's restaurants a boost. And whether the lion dancing outside her Chelsea location brings good fortune, it did cause the biggest smile she's seen in a long time. For NPR News, I'm Camille Peterson in New York.
This is NPR News.
In China, fake COVID vaccines are being sold. Hear more next in your international headlines from the BBC. And then KPCC's Morning Edition continues. The federal government recently gave states the ability to forgive overpayment of unemployment benefits. Most are choosing this option with one notable exception. Then on the Marketplace Morning Report, a close look at some of the challenges parents are facing as they manage working from home and supervising their children's school days. Stay with KPCC. It's 6:43.
Good morning from the BBC in London. I'm Rich Preston with BBC Topline. Some of our top international stories at this hour. Chinese state media says more than 70 people have been arrested for trying to sell fake vaccines. Our correspondent there is Stephen McDonald.
One group masked saline solution and mineral water as vaccine doses. Fake vaccines have reportedly been produced and distributed by criminal groups, in some cases smuggled abroad.
Protests have continued in Myanmar against the military's takeover of power. Crowds gathered outside official buildings in the biggest city, Yangon. Reports say soldiers are using rubber bullets against demonstrators in the northern city of Mandalay. Here's Celia Hatton.
Photos of demonstrators bleeding from apparent rubber bullet wounds are on social media posts. Videos show soldiers marching, driving through the streets, carrying out arrests. The military has been boosting its presence in cities across Myanmar. The government has also announced lengthy prison sentences for people who challenge its rule.
And the French international banking group BNP Paribas says it's limiting financial services to customers using deforested land in the Amazon and Cerrado regions of Brazil. BNP also said it'd encourage clients not to produce or buy beef or soya from recently cleared land. The bank said it wanted to contribute to the fight against deforestation. In London, I'm Rich Preston at the BBC.
working from home, moving less, and feeling constant stress and worry is taking a physical toll. How just living through a pandemic could account for your increased aches and pains. Next time on The Takeaway. Weekday mornings at 9 on 89.3 KPCC.
KPCC supporters include Kibo Biotech, maker of Biomunity, the all-natural dietary supplement featuring probiotics, prebiotics, vitamins, and nutrients, designed to help nourish the immune system naturally. More information.
1-800-PROGRESSIVE. From Cyber Reason, a cybersecurity company dedicated to helping companies end cyber attacks on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Details at cyberreason.com. And from the listeners who support this NPR station.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Noel King. Good morning. The federal relief package that passed in December gave states the power to forgive overpaid federal unemployment benefits. Most states are taking them up on that, but Missouri is not. Here's Corinne Ruff from St. Louis Public Radio.
In the middle of December, Sandra Griffin saw a new message pop up in her online unemployment account. You were overpaid by no fault of your own. That's what the letter states. By no fault of your own. And turns out, people who work for educational institutions aren't eligible for unemployment over the summer, when most teachers are off. So they were saying that all the months that I collected over the summer, I was ineligible to collect those, although they had reassured me during the summer during phone calls that everything was fine. So there was, a contradiction there in what's going on. Griffin filed an appeal, but since the system is backed up, her hearing isn't for another 6 months. In the meantime, she doesn't have to pay anything. More than 46,000 Missourians have also gotten letters demanding repayment. The state says it paid out more than $150 million last year to people who it later determined weren't eligible for the money. Lawmakers from both parties have been calling on Governor Mike Parson to forgive the overpayments that don't involve fraud, about 97% of cases. But Parson told reporters earlier this month that a state law requires collection of overpayments, and he doesn't plan to override it.
There was mistakes made, there's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, I think there is a responsibility as taxpayers' money. If somebody got more money than they should have got, you should ask for it back and says, hey, you owe that to the taxpayer. You don't owe it to me, but to the people that paid it.
Missouri State Representative Lakeisha Bosley, the Democrat from St. Louis, says Parsons' reasoning doesn't add up. A bulk of the overpaid funds are from new federal programs, and the relief package from December gave states the ability to waive overpayments. So Bosley filed a bill earlier this month that would keep the state from collecting overpaid federal benefits for non-fraud cases during times of crisis. Alexa Tapia is with the workers' rights think tank National Employment Law Project. Even states that she says have better systems are struggling to keep up with the influx of first-time filers, new federal programs, and overpayments. Like Missouri, Kentucky also has a state law requiring collection of overpaid benefits. Lawmakers and the governor's office are still working on contract waivers, but Tapia says
to collect that money. And of course they do have that discretion to do so, but it would harm their local economies and their citizens who they should be trying to uplift at this time.
And she says overpayment bills disproportionately impact people of color.
During the height of last summer's protests, many people of color said they were tired of being asked by their well-meaning white friends about what they should be reading or watching or doing about systemic racism. Our Racism 101 project was born out of conversations and stories from Donna and other people of color.
I think that the insurrection reminded us that America was built on our backs.
Reporter Juliana Mayo with our website LAist is one of the creators of Racism 101.
This project began as a conversation starter kit to help guide the sometimes awkward conversations about race-related issues we all need to have. Angelinos we asked to be a part of Racism 101 will be covering some of those tough-to-talk-about topics on a special episode of Take 2 on Monday. These real people, not your typical NPR talking heads, will be discussing everything from code switching to how to be an ally.
Physically show up and put your body on the line because your white body is privileged and is less likely to face the brutality and violence that Black and brown bodies, BIPOC bodies would face in these situations.
It's not about immediate change, it's about constant momentum. Saybrook University has been committed to doing the work since 1971, working to educate inquisitive, informed, and inspired leaders to change the world for the better. Learn more at saybrook.edu.
What does a school holiday even mean these days?
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UKG. Ultimate Kronos Group offers HR solutions to connect modern workforces. UKG.com. Our purpose is people. And by GEP, helping transform supply chains with strategy, services, and software, including GEP Smart and GEP Next, AI-based digital procurement and supply chain platforms.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benashore in for David Brancaccio. Today is technically a school holiday, but for a lot of parents, this isn't going to feel too much different from a regular old stay-at-home pandemic school day. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman reports on some of the challenges facing parents who are working from home and supervising their kids' school days.
Johanna Mayer has 3 kids, 10, 8, and 4. She worked for a big hospital in Washington, D.C. until the pandemic hit.
My oldest daughter is very high risk for COVID. She has a chronic lung disease. And I wasn't able to work from home, so I had to leave that position.
She was unemployed, schooling her kids at home, and didn't have any income until her unemployment benefits came through in August. To help parents like Mayer, Democrats in Congress want to provide 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave, says Dawn Hucklebridge at the group Paid Leave for All.
This pandemic has re-emphasized how critical this is to our functionings as families and as an economy.
Johanna Mayer now has a new job she can do from home while the older kids do schoolwork and the youngest is in daycare.
My littlest one struggles to let me work.
Mayer says she needs schools to open in the fall so her youngest can go to kindergarten. Otherwise, she'll have to give up work again. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.